Hi everybody, Bearded Rogue here again. We're continuing Euro Week, this week in Vlogust, and so today I am going to talk to you about the three things that I love about Argent the Consortium. Argent the Consortium is a Euro game from Level 99 Games, and it's a very highly interactive Euro game. Some people have basically said this is a Euro game with some hybridization with the Ameritrash category. You can directly affect other players in this game in a way that a lot of Euro games don't allow you to do. This is kind of the opposite of multiplayer solitaire. But let me go into the three things that I love about Argent the Consortium. So, the first thing I'm going to mention, though I'm not going to count it as something that I love, is this is yet again a Level 99 Games production, and as such, everything is phenomenal. Like, the cards are all linen finished, even the rule book has a linen finish, the box has a linen finish. They have all sorts of components, gems and plastic coins, like actual coins instead of cardboard chits. They do have plenty of cardboard chits, but they're big, thick cardboard chits. They have a bucket load of miniatures for the workers. Like, each type of worker has its own sculpt. Like, here's a mysticism mage, and here's a Department of Sorcery mage, and all of them have their... Here's a technomancer. All of them have their own color associated with them, but they're amazing sculpts, super high detailed, super high quality everything. But that's not even something that I love about this game. That's just something that I have to point out with every Level 99 Games release, because there's no company on the market that releases games with components that are this high quality, as far as I'm concerned. Like, there are a few that come close, but this is... it's unbelievable. Anyway, so what do I love about Argent the Consortium specifically, not just Level 99 Games? So the first thing that I love is another Level 99 Games hallmark, and that's modularity. This game has so many different ways that you can play it. First of all, it is a worker placement game. However, you construct the board out of different rooms when you play. So there are some rooms that are always in every game. You'll always have the council chamber and the library and the infirmary, but every other room is chosen. And the order that they're in matters, because they always process from left to right and top to bottom. So the order that they're in determines whether or not one of the rooms that gives you a particular resource will give you that resource before another room that costs you that particular resource. So the order they're in matters. They're also all double-sided, and the other side is completely different than the original side. So there's so many different versions of this game in this box that I don't even know where to begin. And that's just touching on the game board. Like, that's not even counting the fact that each and every one of those workers that I showed you with their unique worker sculpts has their own special ability. There's actually a card that you put out on the table for each worker type that has a special ability, and these are also double-sided. So you can decide to use the A or B side for any particular color of worker, depending on what kind of game you want to play, whether you're looking to play something more interactive, less interactive, or if you want to do a mix and match of abilities because that's what your group favors. There are also scenario cards in the game that change up the gameplay and change the overall tone of the game. There's a whole mess of vault cards, which are all special items that are randomly show up in each game that you can acquire. There are spells that are also random. You have spells that you can cast, and each player starts with a spell, so you'll have one spell that you just start with, and then you can acquire additional ones, even legendary spells, over the course of the game that change everything up, and those will be presented in a tableau at random over the course of the game. And while it sounds like there's a lot of randomness to this game, it doesn't really feel random. It just feels variable. Like, a lot of the things aren't, I won't say samey, but they accomplish a lot of the same things in different ways, and encourage you to be creative with how you acquire the different abilities and items and everything throughout the course of the game. So it encourages creativity on your part. A lot of Euro games, you have, like, clear pathways towards victory, and in this one, it really depends on what you're trying to do, on what the pathway to victory even is. Which brings me to my second thing that I absolutely love about this game, and that's that there's only one thing that scores you points in the game, and that's these voters. So, in the beginning of the game, a certain number of these voters are dealt out. There's 2 that are always used. And then the rest of them are randomized. And they're all face down except for the 2 that are always used. So these face-down voters will vote for people based on various criteria. Whether you have the most of a certain type of spell, or the most treasures, or the most marks. A mark is where you place it on one of these face-down people so you can look at them and know what they are. It's not a memory game, you don't have to remember. You actually place a token on it and you can look at it at any time after that. But, you know, one of them actually rewards you for doing the most research into what the voters want. Most supporters, most gold, most consumables, most, you know, all the various resources that you can collect in the game. Excuse me. You don't necessarily know what the voters want at the beginning of the game. You'll have knowledge of the 2 that are always there, and 1 that you get to look at the beginning of the game that nobody else gets to know. And that kind of guides your play for the game. So, if you see the voter that wants you to have the most mana at the end of the game, and that fits inside of your strategy, that may be something that you want to try to strive for. Or you may alter your strategy so that having the most mana at the end of the game is what you're trying to accomplish. The person who wins the most voters wins the game. And so all of the other resources that you accumulate, all of the other spells, and various things that you acquire to accomplish your goals are not the goals themselves. So this is a game that I tend to do very well at, compared with a lot of other Euro games. I am not a super mathy guy. I don't do a lot of math in my head. I operate mostly off of heuristics. So in this game, what I do is I try to acquire as much information about what will score as I can, and then direct all of my play towards those things. There's a lot of ways to get sidetracked in this game, like, you could say, oh, well, that's a really pretty spell, I could really use that to do X, Y, or Z, but if that spell doesn't help you meet the win conditions of the game, then it's largely a distraction. So this is kind of a game of filtering the noise from the signal, which is a unique aspect amongst a lot of Euro games. I'm not saying there are bad decisions in this game, or intentionally bad decisions. And they're not objectively bad, because in some games, that may be the exact spell you want, because if you research it 3 times, it gives you 3 points towards winning this voter who cares particularly about that specific type of spell. So it's all about context. All of your decisions have to be made inside of context and inside of the framework of the game. And the voter cards being hidden really makes for an interesting dynamic under the surface of the game. It's not just the resource management, engine building, worker placement. It also has that dynamic. So if I see somebody acquiring a bunch of gold, are they acquiring gold because they hope by the end of the game to have the most gold and win a worker? Did they see the voter that wants you to have the most gold? Or are they acquiring a whole bunch of gold because they want to buy a whole bunch of items at once and sneak the lead for most items out from underneath somebody? You don't know exactly unless you look at where the voters that they have looked at. And they may just be guessing. So you could have an arms race with 2 players acquiring gold, thinking that the most gold voter has to be in the game, and that voter isn't even present. So all those players did was spend a lot of actions towards a win condition that didn't exist. And I love that about this game. It rewards having knowledge and acquiring knowledge. or reading other people and determining what knowledge they have that's leading to the decisions they're making. So by the end of the game, even if you haven't marked all of the voters, you may know what all of the voters are based on how other players behaved during the game. And that's just phenomenal, as far as I'm concerned, in a game, to bring that second tier of play to a worker placement game. Really is something that I love about this game. The third thing that I love about this game, and this kind of harkens back to the variability a little bit, but the workers themselves. You draft your workers. So in the beginning of the game, you get a character. You choose which school you are going to play. So this is like the Technomancer school, the orange school. So they automatically start with 2 Technomancers. 2 of the orange guys. So they get 2 orange workers no matter what. And you can never have more than 2 of a worker type. So from that point forward, everybody that they draft has to be different. But again, each one of these worker types has a different ability. And could have different abilities between different games based on which side you choose. So, like, typically the green and the blue workers are defensive workers. The green guys can't be wounded, and the blue guys can't be targeted by opponent's spells. Those are the A-side abilities. So they're typically pretty defensive. And then the purple and the gray guys, the purple and gray, are typically speedy guys. They speed up your engine. The purple guys can be placed as a quick action, which means you can throw them out really fast in the beginning of the game, and the gray guys can be placed after you cast a spell. So if you're using a lot of spells, gray mysticism mages are really useful to get more workers on the board. The red mages are very offensive in that they can actually kick other workers out of spots and take those spots. Whereas the Technomancers are really good at research. You can use them to research your spells and everything and move up those tracks faster to gain better magic abilities. And all of these combine in a multitude of different ways. So at the beginning of the game, like, you're deciding kind of how you want to play. Do you want to try to grab purple and gray mages to speed yourself up? Do you want to have the red mages as a looming threat over all of the other players so that they can't guarantee that their spaces that they place their workers in are what they're actually going to get, unless they go very heavily defensive? But if they're going very heavily defensive, sure, they're guaranteeing their spots, but they aren't speeding themselves up or potentially gaining any other abilities out of that, or any threats to level at the other players. So it's kind of a mix of how do you want to do this, and you'll see groupthink start to develop in some circumstances, where they'll go, well, you know, nothing beats speed, so I'm just going to take nothing but the ultra-fast guys. However, the ultra-fast guys end up on the board, and then they're very vulnerable to the red mages, because they're already out there, and the red mages just send them to the infirmary and take their spots. And it doesn't matter that you placed all of your workers early, because I get the spots that I want because I took red mages. If you go really defensive, then yeah, you're guaranteeing your spots on the board, but you can't mess with other people as much. So it just really offers this interesting dynamic in how you draft your mages. There are even some of the rooms in the game will let you acquire additional mages. Some of the supporter cards will, when you activate them, they become a mage in your retinue, as it were. So your supporters, your mages, your workers, all have unique abilities and all have different ways of interacting with each other. And you can set up some very elaborate combos using spells and items and worker powers and everything that lead to some really interesting action chains. And every game is going to be totally different because you're going to draft a different team, different spells and items will come up, different rooms will be in play. Going back to variability, like it's a different game every time you play it. And that means that this one is never going to get old for me. I can imagine being able to play this game forever and never play the same game of it twice. So that's 3 reasons why I love Argent the Consortium. Again, solid worker placement game with a little bit of Ameritrash stuff in there, high customization, high variability, and high interaction. It's an awesome game. Check it out if you get a chance. Argent the Consortium. Anyway, tomorrow we'll continue more of Euro Week here in Vlogust, and Bearded Rogue signing off.